back to Vintage Disney here on Brian's Things That Are Cool. Today we're going to be counting down my top 10 favorite Halloween-themed Disney shorts. So let's get started. Number 10, Egyptian Melodies from 1931. Egyptian Melodies is about a spider that sneaks into a sphinx and encounters some scary things. This short comes to us from Walt's Silly Symphonies series and features some reused backgrounds from an earlier Mickey short. The gags are cute, but it does get a little chaotic, even for a 1930s cartoon. It may not be the strongest, but what would Halloween be without some dancing mummies? Number 9, Runaway Brain from 1995. Runaway Brain opens with Mickey neglecting Minnie in favor of his video games. In an attempt to convince her that he hasn't forgotten their anniversary, he applies for a job with Dr. Frankenholly, voiced by Kelsey Grammer, who promptly switches Mickey's brain into the body of a monster named Julius. This short was originally shown before the film A Kid in King Arthur's Court. I really love the in-jokes in this one, such as the doctor's name, Frankenholly, a reference to two of Walt's 9 old men, Frank Thomas and Ollie Johnston, as well as the blink and you'll miss it cameo of Zazu from The Lion King. It's reminiscent of a lot of the early Mickey Mouse horror comedy shorts, such as The Mad Doctor, but updates Mickey quite well for the 1990s. Number 8, Pluto's Judgment Day from 1935. Pluto is out chasing cats again, much to Mickey's dismay. After Mickey scolds him, Pluto falls asleep in front of the fireplace and dreams he's on trial for all the bad things he's ever done to cats. Of course, the all-cat jury find him guilty. This one is chock full of scary images and situations. With its extreme violence, including scenes of torture and implied murder, little kids might be scared, but I think that was the aim. The lighting and dark colors lend themselves perfectly for what some might consider the most mean-spirited Disney cartoon of all time. But as famed animator Don Bluth once observed, you can show a kid anything, so long as you wind up with a happy ending. Number 7, Hell's Bells from 1929. In Hell's Bells, the demons of hell play music for Satan. His happiness turns to anger when one of his demons refuses to be lunch for Satan's hell dog. This was animated by the great Ub Iwerks and features some really creative designs. Hitchcock fans may recognize the song the demons play for Satan, Funeral March of a Marionette by composer Charles Gounod, as the theme song to Alfred Hitchcock Presents. For those who think Disney and picture princesses and fairy tales, I hope I can introduce you to the dark, twisted output of the Disney company. Number 6, The Haunted House from 1929. In The Haunted House, Mickey seeks shelter from a storm in a house that turns out to be haunted. The early Mickey shorts were often written around Mickey playing music, and this one is no different. But the synchronized sound, which was still new for cartoons, is done very well. And the skeletons, again animated by Ub Iwerks, are full of personality and creativity. If only all haunted houses had lively piano music and dancing skeletons. Number 5, The Mad Doctor from 1933. The Mad Doctor has Pluto kidnapped by the evil Dr. XXX, and Mickey's attempt to save him. There are a lot of horror overtones here, so it's worth mentioning that upon its original release, it was banned entirely in the UK and Nazi Germany. While dark, it is extremely creative, and its character designs and twisted humor are excellent. Hey, kids need to be scared sometimes. Number 4, Trick or Treat from 1952. After Donald plays a mean trick on Huey, Dewey, and Louie, who are out trick-or-treating, the boys receive help from a witch who gives Donald the payback he deserves. This short has some very nice backgrounds, and a more sophisticated style of animation than most of the entries on this list. It features a fun little Halloween song titled Trick or Treat, performed by the Mellow Men, who not only were a vocal group used by Elvis Presley when he was in LA, but their bass singer, Thurl Ravenscroft, was the voice of Tony the Tiger and was one of the singing busts at the Disney attraction, The Haunted Mansion. The witch in this short, Witch Hazel, was voiced by June Foray, who would go on to voice another witch named Hazel in the Looney Tunes Bugs Bunny shorts. She must have had a thing for voicing flying characters because she was also the voice of Rocky the Squirrel on Bullwinkle. This short puts the trick in Trick or Treat. Number 3, The Skeleton Dance from 1929. The Skeleton Dance sees skeletons in a graveyard dance around and make music. It's a very simple plot for an extremely creative cartoon. This is another one from the mind of Ub Iwerks and was the first in Walt's Silly Symphony series. Ub animated this short by himself in 6 weeks, and originally the idea had been pitched to Walt by composer Carl Stalling, who would go on to do the music for Looney Tunes at Warner Brothers. With its dancing skeletons and screaming black cats, it's the perfect short to get you ready for Halloween. Number 2, Lonesome Ghosts from 1937. Lonesome Ghosts follows 4 bored ghosts who play a series of pranks on a ghost elimination team made up of Mickey, Donald, and Goofy. This might have been the very first Disney short I ever saw. As a kid, we had an old 1973 Fisher-Price movie viewer which you cranked on the side and watched a silent version of the short through a viewing lens. I loved it then and I love it now. The gags are hilarious, the designs of the ghosts are very creative, and hey, Mickey, Donald, and Goofy as Ghostbusters? What more could you want? It's interesting to note that in the planning stages of Disneyland's The Haunted Mansion, the ghosts of this short were to have been added as characters. There's still time. Disney, make it happen. And my number 1 Disney Halloween-themed short is Ichabod Crane from 1949. Ichabod Crane follows the 1820 short story The Legend of Sleepy Hollow by Washington Irving about a gangly schoolmaster who has a way with the women, much to the dismay of town tough guy Brom Bones, and a rivalry ensues between the two. Knowing Crane is superstitious, Bones tells him the tale of the Headless Horseman. That night, on his way home, Crane meets the horseman for himself. During World War II, the Disney Company primarily made war bond promotional cartoons and training films. So after the war, to regain money for future features, Disney put together a few features that were a collection of shorts. Ichabod is from one such film, The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad. And while Mr. Toad is an enjoyable film in its own right, Ichabod hits it out of the park. This is hands down the best adaptation of The Legend of Sleepy Hollow I've ever seen. The film is narrated by crooner Bing Crosby, and his laid-back style lends itself to the majority of the story, which doesn't hit its horror elements until the end. The backgrounds of 1790 Tarrytown are gorgeous and beautifully capture autumn with its use of golds, browns, and oranges. Disney concept artist Mary Blair's work always sets the mood, and here it's no different. The film also served as inspiration for other Disney films. For instance, Brom Bones was the inspiration for Gaston in Beauty and the Beast. Ichabod's design was inspired by characters of humorist Will Rogers, and he's one of the most interesting Disney characters because he's kind of a jerk. They show that he falls for Katrina Van Tassel, but then immediately switch to him thinking about her money. So he's not really your typical Disney hero. After a catchy song from Brom about the Headless Horseman, we have 5 minutes of build-up to actually seeing the horseman. And it's in that time that we see some of the most creative elements in the film, such as trees with faces and clouds shaped like hands. It reminds me a lot of the scene in the woods from Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. When we do meet the horseman, we are given, in my opinion, one of the best Disney villains ever. He says nothing, but through his fluid motion and mood-setting backgrounds, he's amazing to watch. As we end the short, we're left not really knowing what happened to Ichabod, and I kind of like that. It gives a sense of foreboding. If you're looking for a short that captures the spirit of the season, you can't go wrong with Ichabod Crane. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed my top 10. If you've got a few favorites of your own, please leave them in the comments section. Until next time, when happy haunts materialize, begin to vocalize, and grim grinning ghosts come out to socialize, I'm Brian. Have a great Halloween.